9/11, let's get right to it. The board meeting is in session. John Deal, House Majority Leader for another day or two, and then he becomes Speaker of the House, I guess after the veto session and all that other stuff. But he's finishing up Majority Leader, and he joins us via Skype from his office, from his high-powered chair and desk at the Capitol. John Deal, House Majority Leader, thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to be here.
Also with us is attorney, former Chief of Staff to Governor Holden. Ladies and gentlemen, all-around gadfly here in town, Jane Duker. Jane, good morning this morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
And the man who wrote the op-ed piece in today's St. Louis Post-Dispatch that's getting a lot of attention this morning, the editorial page editor of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Tony Messenger. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, McGraw. How are you doing?
What you wrote today in the paper, I'm sure you did not write lightly.
No, I didn't. We have an editorial in today's paper that focuses on the legislature's failure to deal seriously with ethics problems, and how they had another situation this week that is just another example of everything that is wrong, particularly in the Missouri House. They had a local government committee have a dinner, a committee meeting, an official meeting posted on the state website at a local restaurant, which to me is something that is continuing to be a horrible practice within this legislature, within the Missouri House specifically, and Republican chairmen. They're, in order to feed themselves with lobbyist money, because there are no limits in Missouri, they're actually taking public meetings out of the Capitol into private restaurants, some of them outside of the capital city, cutting the public out of the process purely because they can, purely because they like it when lobbyists buy them steak and lobster and wine and whatever else. It's disgusting. It is one of the worst examples of how disconnected that legislature is from reality. And meanwhile, all these ethics bills that are out there that would bring some level of sanity to Missouri are just ignored because they like the freebies and they want to continue to get the freebies. And what's the result? The result is a legislature like the one we have that is a living contradiction, that tells us last week that tax cuts create jobs, tells us this week that tax hikes create jobs. And then when you look at the details, you realize, oh, there is some purity there. They're raising taxes on the poor, they're cutting taxes on the rich. Meanwhile, they go and they pass a ridiculous abortion bill again last night that is not intended to actually save lives, but is intended to create a legal case and punish women. They won't even bring up Medicaid, which is the most pro-life bill that exists, that according to the studies out there will save hundreds and hundreds of lives in this state. This is the worst legislature in the history of legislatures, and I'm disgusted by it.
John Deal, would you like to respond?
I tell you, Tony, what you're going to miss, like the public lynchings that we're going to do and the babies. Probably when you get your next job at the Chicago Tribune or the New York Times, you'll be much happier with the political stance in the state that you work in. But I will say this, okay, with regard to the ethics stuff, if there were serious reporters looking on this, okay, the reason, Tony, you know about that, and I don't like it or condone it. We're probably going to put a stop to it when I'm Speaker.
So you agree with me that they shouldn't be doing it?
Tony, hold on. I let you go. Okay. If you were serious reporting, okay, what you would do is dig in on the stuff that doesn't get reported. Okay. For example, like your poster child, Jason Kander, on ethics reform. How did he get paid for his trip to China last year? Did we see a story about that? No. He went to China last year because it was paid for through private foundations of the very companies that you complain about paying for meals up here, pay money into a foundation to pay for him to go to China. But you don't report on that or try to dig into it. How does the Nixon go to England and France last year? Same thing. Do you report on that? No.
Actually, I've previously reported on how governors, including this governor, use the private Hawthorne Foundation funding to do these things, and that's disgusting also.
Tony, let me finish. Okay, you don't get a pass by saying I wrote about it once 6 months ago.
I've written about it several times.
And that editorial. Okay, well, where's your editorial? I want to see your same level of outrage. Okay, when we discovered yesterday that Governor Nixon took $300,000 out of the children's fund to protect abused and neglected children in this state, and used it for travel and due expenses for the National Governors Association so he can go to California and New York and other places and raise money. Where's your editorial on that? Where's the outrage? Okay, That's why ethics bills don't get done. Okay? Because everybody wants to carve out what they do. The minute we try to touch those types of schemes, it can't get done. Okay? The Senate tried to get one out, but the Democrats wanted to add in stuff relating to campaign finance, but in the process, protect the financing schemes that they have from unions. Okay? So that's what happens. So, I mean, you can sit in your ivory tower downtown, but once you get up here, let's do some real reporting if we're going to make statements.
You know what? I challenge you, John. I challenge you to go back and read the ethics editorials that I've written and tell me that they're focused just on one party. I challenge you to do that. You're wrong.
We'll start redlining. Let's see the same level of outrage on Nixon stealing money from the Children's Division to pay for the National Governors Association junkets.
Nice distraction.
Let's see the same level of outrage. I'll look for it tomorrow.
Well, wait. The one problem I have with this is I don't think you defend ethics grossness by pointing out more of it. I mean, that's not a defense.
Jen, I don't think it is, but I'm going after Tony's statements, okay? It's a system-wide problem. Tony wants to turn it into a partisan problem.
No, I don't. It's a system-wide problem.
No.
I have long, difficult conversations with Chris Koster, the Democratic Attorney General, who is absolutely wrong on campaign finance, and I rip him over it. I have ripped Democrats over their ethical failings. Again, I challenge you to look at the record and read the editorials we've written. You have the Republican majority in the House and the Senate. If you want to take ethics seriously, you take it seriously.
How do you want to deal with it, Tony? On a line-by-line basis? Do you want to deal with it on the amount of ink that you give it? When you write about Jason Cantor and his junket to China, when you write about Jay Nixon and his junkets to Europe, and when you write with the same level of outrage about Jay Nixon stealing money from the Children's Division to pay for the Democratic Governors Association.
No, it was
it was the National Governors Association. It wasn't the Democratic Governors Association.
I'm sorry. Okay.
When you're distracting, get your facts straight, please.
He went to California on a different organization. Sorry about that.
John, you mentioned that next year when you're Speaker of the House, you're going to push for some type of ethics reform?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that being said, look, this is not a Republican or Democrat problem, but what has to happen is it has to be done across the board. I don't like, as Tony knows, and we've had discussions about it. You know, I don't like the concept of committee meals either. Okay, and I think we're going to, at least that's something we can, a speaker can control, and we're going to take, a long, hard look at that. But the why Tony's arguments are so disingenuous on this is because he's talking about what's publicly disclosed. What he's not going into is all the stuff that's not publicly disclosed, and that's where the public ought to be really, really concerned, because the more rules you put in place, the more incentive there is for people to go underground about it.
So, John, you're saying if we're offended by the things we know, we'd really be offended by the things we don't know.
Sure, like for example, like the Secretary of State's out there, acting like the angel and all this when he's taking trips to China, paid for by companies that funnel the money through foundations. So,
well, then just ban the lobbyist gifts. Just ban them. Just ban them. But the trouble I have is to say that, okay, because more people do it and it's grosser than we thought, that we ought not do anything about it. I mean, it's easy. Ban lobbyist gift. There was a bill out there. Caleb's bill was good. Caleb Rowland's bill out of Columbia was really good. I don't agree with the Democrats tubing the bill because they didn't think it goes far enough. I mean, you got to start somewhere, and you don't throw out, the good for the perfect. But, I mean, just ban the lobbyist gifts. It's real easy. The disclosure, the whole theory behind saying, we're going to let it be the Wild West in Missouri was, if we disclose it, these people are going to be held accountable. Baloney. They're not. They've gotten bolder. Legislators, politicians. It's a Jeff City problem. I'm not saying it's a partisan issue. But the disclosure does not prevent these people from acting like this. So, ban it. Just ban it.
Were you a chief of staff to a governor?
I was, and I put...
Did that get fixed while you were chief of staff?
No, I was not there when they did that. I was not there when they eradicated all of that. And we put our National Governors Association and Democratic Governors Association, we put those fees in our budget. And
I'm talking about gifts.
I never took a gift from anybody the entire time I was there.
I think his point is it wasn't solved under your administration.
No, because it was a Republican legislature.
everybody tries. And look, I agree with the premise of it. What is just fundamentally wrong, partisan, and disingenuous is to come out with statements that this is the worst ever. What's happening now is the same thing that happened when Bob Holden was gone.
There was no committee meetings at restaurants when we were there.
But instead, come on, it's notorious around here when the Democrats were in control, how they would come in, they would have literally pull up trunks to the side. What was that guy's name? O.L. Shelton, right? It was notorious how he'd come in and have the liquor lobby fill up his trunk with liquor before he goes home on the weekend.
They do that today.
But yeah, because everybody does it, we shouldn't stop it?
First of all, I don't think that happens today. But that being said, my point is it's the same thing that's happening now was happened 10 years ago, that happened 20 years ago. So don't come and act like this is something that's unique. I'm not defending it. I would like to fix it. But if you're going to fix it, as I say, how about a little less talk, okay? Be fair, make it apply to everybody, and maybe something can get done.
That's John Deal from his House Majority seat in Jefferson City via Skype. Tony Messenger from the editorial page of the Post-Dispatch, and attorney, former chief of staff to Governor Holden, Jane Duker. You can watch us on TV, scltoday.com. You can also watch us on TV at ktrs.com. Andrew Dowd on the TV side. The board meeting continues here on the Big 550 KTR.